People, I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and today this is part 13 of what I hope is a never ending series of reviews and rankings of the Grateful Dead's Dave picks. And because this is part 13, we are now discussing volume 13. This is a complete show from February 24th, 1974, released way back in 2015, a 3 CD set, no bonus material. And all I got to say is, ladies and gentlemen, 1974 has done it again. This is why we collect all the shows from the Grateful Dead. Because, yeah, it's a random show in February in 1974. And, yeah, you could look at the set list and probably think to yourself, I got to get this because the set list is so good. But it's also one of those shows that, one, shows you why you need to listen to as many shows as possible. Two, why 1974 might be the best year they ever played. Why 72, 73, 74 are probably the best 3-year run they ever played. And yeah, why the band is so ridiculously incredible. Lot of really good things to like about this show. The jams hit pretty hard. One of them is outright epic. All of them are just purposeful, focused, well played. The energy is good. Everybody is in top form. The band itself is amazing. But the set list, there's a number of 74. They were introducing a lot of new songs into the rotation. Different things were happening. Some things were kind of going away and maybe were only going to happen a couple more times. And this is sort of a crossroads of all of those things. So you just get a lot of really, really neat sounds and ideas. And if you're hardcore into the Dead, there are things in here that don't sound like everything else you've ever heard as far as certain songs go. If you're new to the Dead, the jams are incredible, the playing's incredible. This show is stupid good. Yeah, 3 sets, 3 CDs, 2 sets, but the second set is stupid long. Like the entire thing is what, like over 3 hours long? It's like 3.5 hours long, and it's a single show. A single show. The first set is short. It all fits on 1 CD. The second set takes up 2 CDs. And again, the first set opens with US Blues. This is like the 3rd or 4th US Blues they ever played. In a short matter of time, it would be relegated to sort of encore numbers. A couple times it would come out of songs in which it sounds fantastic. But I have not been overly kind to US Blues on this channel. This US Blues is great. I think having it as an opener gives it a different vibe. It feels different. The beginning feels just a little looser and more relaxed and more stretched out. They seem to jam on it a little bit more. I mean, it's still US Blues, but everything about it just feels better and feels different and feels looser and doesn't feel like my Dead experience seeing them was from like mid 80s to like mid 90s. And US Blues was, I think, always an encore. And it was like, you just knew it was going to be 4.5 minutes long. They were going to walk off the stage, and then we're done. This one just doesn't. It's lazier, stretches out a little more. The band seems to really, really, really enjoy it. Sets a great mood for the rest of the show. We get a Mexicali Blues. One of the only complaints I might have about it is like this song and a couple other songs, like you almost can only hear Billy on drums. Bill sounds great. You can hear the vocals, but the rest of the instruments tend to be kind of buried a little bit in the mix. You kind of hear that on Mexicali Blues. It's not as prominent on other songs, but every once in a while, Keith kind of gets lost or maybe Bob gets lost. And this, I think it is when it's most kind of obvious, but it doesn't affect the song in any way. Brown Eyed Women. Beat it on down the line. Candyman. I've said this before. I'll say it again. We need more Candyman. I don't want Candymen. I don't need more of them. I just need this one more often. Candyman. Good Jack Straw. One of the last China writers that would have that feeling groovy jam in the middle of it that made it so epic. So we get a really nice first set China writer with that feeling groovy jam. And it definitely is one of the more like, I don't want to necessarily say laid back, but there's definitely somewhat of a chiller, more relaxed, a very comfortable, confident vibe about it. Almost as if you knowing that it's going to be one of the last ones, as if yeah, they're just done with this idea. They've played it out. They're still enjoying it, but maybe they want to move on. And it's in no way bad. It sounds great, but there definitely is more of a chiller vibe about it. And El Paso, a loser. We need more losers. I could take a loser in every show. And then to close the set, a nice 18 plus minute, jazzy, exploratory. I want to hear every one of these playing in the band. Just a nice, absolute, just climax to the end of what is a very well played, incredibly sounding first set. Phil sounds great. The rhythm work sounds great. Jerry is on top of every vocal and every solo. Just a really tight, effective first set with an amazing, awesome, exploratory 20-minute ending. You can't go wrong. Second set is even better. Opens up with the Cumberland Blues, high energy Cumberland Blues, almost 7 minutes long. They are jamming this thing like crazy. Energy is good. It feels great. It's like they pick up right where they left off with playing in the band. Then we get It Must Have Been the Roses, which is interesting because It Must Have Been the Roses in this era and even a little bit in later in the 70s. A lot of times Jerry would get back-to-back songs, and almost always it seems like It Must Have Been the Roses is the second of the back-to-back songs. And though Cumberland Blues, yes, Bob sings also in Cumberland Blues, does kind of feel like a back-to-back Jerry thing somehow for some reason. I don't know why. But I guess that is Bob and Jerry singing it. So, but yeah, so we get It Must Have Been the Roses. Then we get a Big River, pretty good sounding Big River. Again, not a song I need to hear, but it works well because the energy is so good in the set. We get a Bertha, which is a nice, weird placement, like an early, but not first, second set Bertha. Love that energy. A Weather Report suite that just sounds just perfect. It is not your most epic Weather Report suite. The jam at the end, as other like 73 and 74 ones, is not as epic or does not go on as long, but it's like purposeful, it's tight, it's focused. This is one of those Weather Report suites where, like, if you were only going to play, like, you had 15 minutes to prove the greatness of the Dead, this is 15 minutes and 34 seconds. We're going to grant you that 34 seconds. This will do it. This is just everything. Weather Report sounds great. Let It Go Grow sounds great. The transition between the two is perfect. The energy is perfect. The jamming is perfect. Jerry's guitar playing is perfect. It's all just so essential. Then we get a Row Jimmy, which at first, I think the first time I listened to this, knowing that Weather Report suite at other times would kind of more effortlessly segue into other things. It's sort of like they're pushing the jam and it kind of just ends and Jerry kind of jumps into a Row Jimmy and it has sort of like, oh, okay, that's kind of a little weird little transition. But I like Row Jimmy, and while the transition is a little awkward, eventually that energy kind of makes its way into the song. And yeah, we kind of got to slow down a little. We got to take a breather because of what's coming later in the show. So knowing what's coming, I'm like, okay, we needed this moment. We needed to relax. And then Jerry gets another song. And I guess Bob did get the two Weather Report songs. He gets A Ship of Fools. And this Ship of Fools has a completely different intro than it normally would. Also, going back to the Must Have Been the Roses, It Must Have Been the Roses, I think, is a little bit faster than it would be. This is an early It Must Have Been the Roses. This is an early Ship of Fools. So that has a little bit more energy. The Ship of Fools just has kind of a weird little intro where the first time I listened, when I listen to the first time, I don't look at the set list or try not to. So like I can be like surprised by the songs. And I remember the first time going, what is this? I'm trying to think if it's a Bob song because they just played Row Jimmy. And then when he starts singing Ship of Fools, it's like, oh, okay. And then I think it might be the first Ship of Fools. It's definitely one of the first Ship of Fools because they haven't worked out that intro yet. And then we get a Promised Land, which works great in the middle of a set, especially since Dark Star follows. Disc 2 ends. That's the end of Disc 2, The Promised Land. Disc 3 opens up with a 29-minute Dark Star. And this Dark Star manages to explore, other than like the deep, deep space where there's like, no percussion and they're making weird noises, they kind of don't ever go there over the course of this 30 minutes. They explore every other sonic avenue and venue and area over the course of 15, 20 minutes, like So much so, there was so much exploring going on and just straight up playing and Phil doing amazing stuff and Jerry responding, and the rhythm section and Bill just being crazy and Jerry just like going here and the band following, or Phil going here and Jerry following him there. Like, it is one of the most exploratory, jazzy, just all over the place Dark Stars that when they finally hit the lyrics almost every time, or when they go back into the like the melody when you're going to go into that first verse, almost every time I listen to this, I'm like, oh, I somehow missed the first verse. Like, how did I miss that? Because it's about 20 minutes in when they hit that first verse. And it's like, oh, wow, I must have just phased out on that because this has been so incredibly good. And then Jerry starts singing the first verse. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Wow, that was pretty epic. And it is. It's pretty epic. It is everything you want out of a Dark Star. And we're considering this is a 74 Dark Star. I do think the play-ins and the Dark Stars, when it's just Bill on drums and Mickey's not there, are my favorite. I think Bill is a phenomenal drummer, and I don't think Mickey hurts him, but I like the way it sounds when Bill is just there. And this is just incredible. But the best thing about this, as epic as the like pre-verse jam is, usually while there is nothing completely predictable about the Dead, there are a lot of times when, if that Dark Star pre-verse jam is especially long, once they're finished with the Dark Star chorus, they'll generally go into like a deep space where everybody drops out. They start making noises. Phil maybe takes a bass solo. Maybe there's no percussion for a while. And this kind of feels like they're going to drop out, but Keith immediately jumps in and just starts playing some beautiful lines on the piano. And I think it's piano. I don't think it's keyboard. But whatever it is with Keith, yeah, I think it's piano, right? Just playing some absolutely beautiful, beautiful stuff. And it is keyboards, but like with a very piano clean sound. He kind of just takes over and just kind of drives it for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, when it looks like they want to like go down into a deep space. But Keith keeps it up and keeps it kind of like pretty and kind of optimistic and kind of upbeat, so that by the time the band and Jerry comes back in to like engage with whatever Keith is doing, it doesn't really have a chance to go into those deep areas, and instead just kind of picks itself up and kind of floats off again and kind of goes off. And it's just like, it is just incredibly beautiful and incredibly perfect. And they kind of jam on that for like another, I don't know, probably like 7 or 8 more minutes before they find their way into a Morning Dew. It's a pretty clean, like, not like perfectly smooth segue, but you don't feel like Dark Star is dying as much. Like maybe they're going to go into another area, maybe they're going to jam somewhere else, and right when they reach that point, it's like dun 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 dun, and Jerry plays that riff, and it's just like, yeah, and everybody, you can feel the energy in the crowd, and it's a nice, healthy, long Morning Dew. That jam at the end, while I'm not going to say it reaches Barton Hall levels because I'm not sure anything does, it is a worthy closing solo where Jerry at some point is just like attacking full on. Band's just lifting them up higher and higher. And when they go into that run and Jerry goes, I guess it doesn't matter, whatever the line is, I'm horrible with lyrics, you can hear the audience go like, yeah, like this cheer of just like, oh my gosh, you did it. Like, it feels so satisfying and so good and so cathartic. And like, to have a 30-minute Dark Star, then a 15-minute Morning Dew, you have 45 minutes of perfect, perfect music. Every member of the band stepping up and just delivering. But it's not over. No, it's not over. Then we get a Sugar Mag, into a Not Fade Away, into a Going Down the Road Feeling Bad, into a Not Fade Away. And all of it is, again, just taking the energy, riding the energy. I think the Going Down the Road Feeling Bad is probably the highlight of this entire area. The segue into Not Fade Away is a little weird at first. I think going back out of one of the segues is a little like, okay, weird, but they eventually find their way and make it work. And then after that, we get the encore. If I'm not mistaken, it's one of only like 3 in all of the 70s. We get an It's All Over Now Baby Blue cover. That is just perfect. Like, you want to talk about like I would imagine if you're at this show and like you've just experienced those two sets and they come back for an encore and they drop and it's all over now, Baby Blue, that's like special. That's like epic. That's like this band knows they just delivered the goods and they want to make sure the goods continue to be delivered for the entire time. Yeah, this show, I have no complaints about this show. I recommend everybody who's interested in the Dead. This is a starter album. This is an album for those of you who've been listening for 20 years and have not heard it. If you've been listening for 40 years and you haven't heard it, you must own this album. And where does it show up on the list? It's at the top, people. It's number one. It is by far my favorite thing released in the Dave's Picks so far. I love it. I love the first set, love all the second set. I love the Promised Land. I like the Big River. I like things I don't normally like because the energy is so good. The band is so in rare form. Yeah, this is a winner in every way, shape, and form, and I highly recommend it to everybody who loves music. But that's it, people. That's all I got to say about Dave's Picks Volume 13. Oh, where's it from? It's from the Winterland in San Francisco. So, of course, it's fantastic. February 24th, 1974. We were living just down the road in LA at this time. I was only 3. I wanted to go to the show because I heard great things about the Winterland. But my mom was like, nope, you're only 3. You can't go. So, yeah, probably the best. Probably would never have made it back home. But, yeah, great show, people. I recommend it. Anyways, that's it. Let me know what you think about the show. Let me know if you've heard it. Let me know if you check it out and hear it and what you think about my opinion of it, whether it was a good recommendation or not. You know, comment, subscribe, share, like, and most importantly, go listen to music. Go listen to this music because it doesn't get much better than this. The good old Grateful Dead. Peace, y'all. Talk to you later.